She reunited with her past, while I stayed behind to rebuild the future she abandoned, teaching our daughter what loyalty really means. When Laura left, it wasn't a fight. It was a quiet betrayal, like someone slowly closing a door they never intended to reopen. She said she'd fallen back in love with her first everything, Tyler, the same guy who used to mow lawns behind the football field and later begged me for a shot at my company's warehouse job. I wrote his reference letter. Irony has a cruel sense of humor. Laura and I had been together since college. 12 years of laughter, bills, and PTA meetings. Married 10. I'm 36, she's 34, and somehow I still believed we were stable. Then she started using words like energy, alignment, and self-discovery. Translation: she was already halfway gone. The divorce was fast. I gave her the car, the savings, even let her keep the furniture she liked. I just wanted peace. For a while I thought I had it. Until that Friday. Emma, our 13-year-old, came home early from her mom's. Her eyes looked older. Laura's car sat idling in the driveway, driver's door open, engine humming like a threat. "Dad," Emma whispered, voice flat but steady. "I'm not going to Mom's anymore." My chest tightened. "Why not, sweetheart?" She looked past me toward nothing. "I just don't feel safe there." That one sentence shattered whatever illusions I still had left. Because if Emma didn't feel safe, something was very, very wrong. After that Friday, Emma moved like a ghost through the house. Quiet, polite, careful not to take up space. She'd sit at the kitchen table, picking at her food, pretending to do homework but mostly staring through the page. I didn't push. You learn, as a parent, that silence can be a wound you have to let breathe before you try to bandage it. Weeks passed. Then one night, while we were cleaning up dinner, she said it so softly I almost missed it. "Mom drinks a lot now." The words came out like a confession, like she was betraying someone. I froze, waiting. Emma's eyes stayed on the plate she was drying. "And she has that man over. The one from before." "Travis?" I asked, though I already knew. She nodded. "He sleeps there sometimes. They fight a lot. He broke a glass last week." I felt my stomach twist. That name, Travis, I hadn't heard it since college. Back then, he was the kind of guy who thought charm was a personality and confidence was an excuse. He'd been a constant presence in Laura's stories. The funny ex, the wild one who taught her to be free. I'd helped him get a warehouse job 3 years ago, when he claimed to be turning his life around. I guess old ghosts don't retire, they just wait for new openings. Over the next few days, Emma told me fragments. How Laura would say, "Don't tell your dad everything, he'll just judge." How Travis called me names. The accountant robot, Mr. Spreadsheet. How sometimes, when he stayed over, she locked her bedroom door. She didn't say more, but she didn't need to. When the custody hearing notice came, Laura started her campaign. The texts poured in, all venom, no punctuation. "You're poisoning her against me. You're bitter and pathetic. You'll never make her love you more than me." I didn't answer. I just took screenshots, organized them by date, and forwarded them to my lawyer. Facts have more patience than anger. Then, as if she'd been waiting for silence to make her brave, Travis decided to chime in. His message popped up at midnight. "Be a man and let her go. You had your chance." It was so absurd I laughed. Then I forwarded that too. The Real explosion came 3 nights before the hearing. Headlights washed over my front window. I stepped outside and saw Laura standing in the driveway. Barefoot, mascara streaked, wine bottle in hand. "You turned her against me," she screamed, voice sharp enough to cut the quiet street. "You ruined my family." "Laura, go home," I said, keeping my tone even. "Don't you tell me what to do. You stole my daughter." Neighbors started to peek out through curtains. 1 or 2 stepped onto porches. Someone, I think it was Mrs. Chun from across the street, raised her phone. The recording light blinked red in the dark. Laura stumbled closer, the bottle swinging dangerously. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Sitting in your nice little house pretending you're the good one." "Laura," I said quietly, "Emma's inside. Please don't do this here." For a moment, Something flickered in her expression. Guilt, maybe, or exhaustion. Then it hardened into rage. She hurled the bottle onto the asphalt, where it shattered, wine bleeding across the driveway like a wound. That sound, glass against concrete, was what brought Emma to the window. She didn't cry, didn't call out. She just watched her mother unravel in the yellow streetlight, one hand against the glass, eyes wide and steady. The police came 15 minutes later, after a neighbor called. By then, Laura was sitting on the curb, crying into her hands, repeating, "He took everything. I told the officers she wasn't violent, just upset. They asked if I wanted to press charges for trespassing. I said no. I wasn't angry, not in the way I used to be. I was just done." When they led her to her car, she looked up at me, eyes glassy. "You'll regret this," she said. But I didn't, because at the window, Emma stood behind me, silent and unblinking. And I realized she'd just watched every illusion of her mother collapse into truth. That night, after the police left, she whispered from the hallway, "Thank you for not yelling back." And that's when I understood. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the only thing that speaks loud enough to be heard. The morning of the hearing, the sky looked like metal, gray, dull, and heavy. The kind of morning that makes even hope feel tired. Emma ate breakfast in silence, spoon clinking softly against her cereal bowl. When she finally looked up, her voice was steady, too steady for 13. "Dad," she said, "I'm telling the judge everything. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to, that I could protect her from this. But she was already beyond that kind of shelter. So I just nodded. Tell the truth, sweetheart. That's all you need to do." In the courthouse lobby, Laura arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a white blouse and the same perfume she'd worn on our wedding day. I don't know if it was deliberate, but the scent hit me like a ghost. Beside her, Travis, in a cheap suit that couldn't hide his arrogance, smirked like he'd already won. I didn't acknowledge either of them. My lawyer, Mr. Benson, whispered, "Stay calm. Let her hang herself." We sat. The judge, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and zero patience for drama, called the session to order. Laura's attorney began the performance immediately. "Your Honor, my client is deeply concerned that her ex-husband is poisoning their daughter's mind, turning her against her mother through emotional manipulation." I didn't flinch. Benson simply said, "We'll let the child speak for herself." Emma was called to the stand. My heart broke a little seeing her so small behind that big wooden table. But she sat up straight, hands folded in her lap, voice quiet but clear. "I want to live with my dad," she said. The judge nodded gently. "Can you tell me why, Emma?" "Because my mom lies," she said. "She said she was just friends with Mr. Collins. But I saw them before the divorce. They kissed in our kitchen. They laughed when they thought I was asleep. You could feel the air change. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a heartbeat." Laura's face drained of color. "That's not true," she blurted out. She's confused." The judge raised a hand. "Mrs. Dawson, you'll have a chance to respond. Continue, Emma." Emma looked down for a moment, twisting the ring on her finger. One she'd made in art class. "They used to whisper when they thought I couldn't hear. He'd call her at night and she'd go outside to talk. I asked her once if she was going to leave Dad. She said, 'Don't tell him yet.' I felt every word like a nail hammered in slow motion. Not because I didn't know. I'd suspected for months, but because hearing it from her voice made it real in a way no evidence ever could." The judge turned to Laura. "Mrs. Dawson, did your relationship with Mr. Collins begin before the separation?" Laura hesitated, blinking fast. "We were just friends," she said finally. The judge's tone sharpened. "Were you intimate with this friend before the legal separation?" The silence that followed stretched long enough for the fluorescent lights to buzz audibly. Travis shifted in his chair. Laura stared straight ahead. "I don't see how that's relevant," she said at last. "It's relevant," the judge replied coolly, "because your daughter witnessed it. You made her a participant in your deception." That was the moment Laura broke. Her posture sagged. Her eyes flickered between me, the judge, and Emma, searching for a version of this story that could still save her. But there wasn't one left. Her lawyer tried to pivot, mumbling something about emotional instability and alienation tactics. But the judge cut him off. Enough. I've heard enough. The hearing adjourned with a new date scheduled for final custody determination. The judge ordered a child psychologist's evaluation, pending further review. Laura tried to catch my eye as the bailiff dismissed us, but I didn't give her that. She mouthed something, maybe please, maybe don't. But the spell was broken. Outside, the sky finally cracked open and started to rain, thin at first, then steady. Emma held my hand as we walked to the car. Was I too harsh? She asked quietly. I looked at her, my brave, too wise for her age kid, and said, No, honey, you were honest. That's all that matters. From across the parking lot, I saw Travis arguing with Laura, his voice rising, his finger jabbing toward her. For the first time, I saw fear on her face, not anger. She tried to reach for him. He pulled away, got into his car, and sped off, tires hissing against the wet pavement. As we drove home, Emma stared out the window. She looked scared, she said. She should be, I replied softly, because the truth doesn't care how scared you are. Laura had built her new life on a story, and stories, when they start to crack, don't shatter all at once. They peel, slow and ugly, until there's nothing left but the truth underneath. And that truth was finally beginning to show. The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper and coffee, that strange, sterile scent that clings to bureaucracy. I remember thinking it was fitting. Justice rarely smells clean. We'd been at this for 7 months. Depositions, interviews, custody evaluations, endless paperwork measuring the fragments of a broken family. Emma had met twice with the court-appointed psychologist, who later described her as grounded, articulate, and emotionally self-aware. That line alone was worth every sleepless night. The morning of the final hearing, Laura arrived first. Her lawyer looked exhausted, as if he knew how this would end. She'd gone back to the soft blonde hair color she used to have when we first met, maybe hoping nostalgia might work better than evidence. Travis wasn't beside her this time. A small mercy. My attorney, Benson, nodded toward the bench. Stay calm. We already won before this started. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. She didn't waste words. I've reviewed the evidence, she began, tone clipped and deliberate. Video footage, testimony, and professional evaluations. She turned a page, the sound of it slicing through the tension. It is clear that Mrs. Dawson engaged in a relationship with Mr. Collins prior to her separation. Furthermore, her conduct and emotional volatility during this process have created an unstable environment for the minor child. Laura's jaw trembled. Her attorney whispered something, but she didn't hear him. The judge continued, Therefore, the court grants primary custody to the father. The mother is awarded supervised visitation every other weekend, pending a 6-month review. Child support is set at $380 per month. The words landed like hammer blows. Final, cold, irreversible. Laura shot to her feet. This isn't fair, she shouted, voice cracking. He turned her against me. He's lying. He's always. The judge didn't flinch. Mrs. Dawson, she said firmly, sit down. Your daughter deserves stability, not secrets. This is the consequence of your own actions. Laura froze, then sank back into her seat, eyes glassy and unfocused. I didn't feel triumphant, just hollow, like someone had turned down the volume of the world. The hearing adjourned. Papers shuffled, chairs creaked, murmurs filled the space again. Benson leaned over, voice low. Congratulations. She can't appeal this without new evidence. You're free. Free. The word felt foreign. Outside the courtroom, the hallway buzzed with motion. Lawyers with folders, clerks with coffee cups, people negotiating their own small heartbreaks. Travis was waiting by the elevator. He looked different, thinner, paler, eyes darting. He stepped toward me, anger tightening his jaw. You destroyed the woman you loved, Before I could answer, Benson moved between us, calm as ever. "She destroyed herself," he said. "Walk away." Travis sneered, but his voice cracked when he spoke again. "She's lost everything because of you." "No," I said quietly. "Because of choices she made long before today." The elevator dinged. He didn't get in. I did. When I stepped outside, the afternoon sun hit like an interrogation light. The parking lot shimmered with heat. Emma was sitting in the car, hugging her backpack, eyes downcast. I opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, and waited. She didn't look up. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked finally, voice so small I almost didn't hear it. I turned to her. "You told the truth. That's always the right thing." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she nodded and smiled. The first real smile I'd seen in months. Small, fragile, but real. On the drive home, she hummed along to a song on the radio, absent-mindedly tracing shapes on the window fog. It wasn't joy exactly, more like peace. The quiet kind that comes after a storm. At a red light, I glanced at her reflection in the glass. Her mother's eyes, my posture, and a new strength that belonged to neither of us but had been forged between us. I realized then that this wasn't victory. It was survival, the quiet kind that leaves you standing when the shouting's done. When we pulled into the driveway, Emma unbuckled her seatbelt, grabbed her backpack and said, "Can we make pancakes tomorrow? Like we used to?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "We can." As she went inside, I sat in the car a little longer, watching the evening light settle across the lawn. Soft, steady, forgiving. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel half-empty. Felt like ours again. A month passed, and life began to find its new rhythm. Not fast, not easy, but real. The chaos had finally settled into something almost like quiet. Laura's visits were every other Saturday, supervised by a court-appointed counselor at the family center downtown. The rules were clear. No alcohol, no Travis, no unapproved guests. I drove Emma there the first time, parked a block away, and waited in the car. When she came back out an hour later, she looked detached. Not sad, not angry, just distant. "She cried a lot," Emma said softly, staring out the window. "But I think she's just sorry she got caught." I didn't know how to respond. What could I say? That she might be right? That sometimes adults confuse guilt with love? I just squeezed her hand and said, "You did good, kiddo." Every month, Laura's $380 check arrives right on time. Maybe out of pride, maybe fear of contempt of court. I never touch it. It goes straight into Emma's college fund. I want her to know that even the pieces of a broken past can build a better future if you place them right. Laura still texts every day. Is she eating? How are her grades? Did she like the shoes I sent? I answer the essentials, nothing more. Sometimes I wonder if she's trying to parent through a screen because that's the only place she can control the narrative. The difference now is that I don't owe her a response. Silence is its own boundary. As for Travis, he tried to resurface. Twice he sent friend requests from new accounts, each one a little more desperate. The last message came from a fake profile with his picture blurred. "You're a homewrecker. You ruined her life." I sent it straight to Benson, who drafted a cease and desist so sharp it could have cut glass. The message stopped. The noise stopped. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for the next explosion. Emma's life, on the other hand, started expanding again. She joined the debate club, found a group of friends who spoke fluent sarcasm, and started therapy every Thursday after school. I sit in the waiting room sometimes, scrolling through emails I don't read, just to be near her. One evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, spaghetti night, her favorite, she rinsed a plate and said casually, "Dad, Miss Peterson says I should try out for student council next year." "That's great," I said, grinning. "You'd be good at it." She shrugged, pretending not to care, but her smile gave her away. The light was coming back into her face. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Later that night, after dishes were done and the house was quiet, she came into my office, barefoot, hair still damp from her shower. "Hey, Dad." "Yeah. Thanks for believing me." Just that. No speech, no tears. But I almost lost it right there. Because that's all I'd ever wanted to do. To believe her when the world got messy. When the truth wasn't convenient. When adults acted like children. I managed to keep my voice steady. Always, kiddo. That's my job. She smiled and went off to bed, leaving the faint smell of shampoo and something else I couldn't name. Maybe hope. After she was asleep, I sat in the living room for a long time, watching the soft glow from her nightlight spill through the crack under her door. The same house that once echoed with arguments and slammed doors now felt warm again. Not perfect, not healed, but alive. I looked around. The worn couch, the chipped coffee table, the faint ring on the wall where a picture once hung, and realized I didn't want to replace any of it. These scars told the story of what survived. The ghost of what Laura and I used to be still lingers sometimes. A song, a smell, a flicker of memory. But it's just that, a ghost. Can't hurt us anymore. We're rebuilding, Emma and I. From ruins, yes, but ruins make strong foundations when you're willing to face what broke them. And every night, when I hear her laugh from down the hall loud, unguarded, unafraid, I know we're going to be okay. The custody order came in a plain brown envelope. No fanfare, no drama, just paper and ink confirming what life had already made true. I opened it at the kitchen table, morning light spilling across the page. Primary custody. Father. It felt less like a win and more like an exhale I'd been holding for a year. Upstairs, Emma was humming. A soft tune I didn't recognize. Something she must have picked up from her friends or the radio. It drifted through the floorboards like sunlight through leaves, fragile and warm. That sound meant more than any verdict. I didn't celebrate. I didn't text anyone. I just sat there with my coffee growing cold, listening to my daughter sing in the house that had finally found its peace. When people ask, and they still do, if I'm angry at Laura, I tell them no. Not anymore. Anger's like carrying broken glass in your pockets. It cuts you long after you stop throwing it. She made her choice. She chased a ghost from her past and lost herself trying to catch it. Meanwhile, I stayed behind, building something solid from the pieces she left behind. Sometimes, I still catch glimpses of the woman I married. Not in person, but in memory. The way she laughed at bad movies, the way she used to braid Emma's hair before school. Then the memory fades, replaced by the echo of what she became. A stranger who mistook attention for love and secrets for strength. She still texts occasionally. You've turned her against me. She barely talks to me during visits. You're poisoning her mind. I don't respond. Some battles stop being wars and start being noise. Silence is my answer now, not revenge, just release. Every other Saturday, Emma still goes to the supervised center. She doesn't dread it anymore, but she doesn't look forward to it either. It's more like a chore. Brushing her teeth, finishing homework, visiting the past so she can move forward. When she comes home, she always asks if we can make dinner together. Pancakes, tacos, grilled cheese, it doesn't matter what. She just wants normal. Last week, as we cooked, she looked up from the pan and said, "You know, Mom said she's trying to get better." I nodded. I hope she does. She studied me for a moment, as if trying to decide whether I meant it. Then she smiled. "I think you actually do." "I do," I said quietly. "Because if she gets better, it's better for you too." Emma's learned more about love in a year than most adults learn in a lifetime. She understands now that love isn't about promises or grand gestures. It's about consistency, showing up, being the person someone can count on even when things fall apart. One night, while tucking her in, she asked, "Dad, do you still love Mom?" I didn't lie. "I love the part of her that gave me you." She nodded slowly, as if filing that answer somewhere deep. "That's fair," she said, and drifted off to sleep. I stood there for a while, watching her breathe, the soft rise and fall of peace reclaimed. The world outside was quiet. No sirens, no shouting, no ghosts scratching at the walls. Just the hum of the fridge, the rhythm of rain starting on the roof, and my daughter's steady heartbeat beneath it all. This house used to be a battlefield. Now it's just home. Sometimes I wonder if Laura ever looks back and realizes what she lost. Maybe she does. Maybe she's still chasing some version of happiness that doesn't exist. But that's not my burden anymore. My job now is simple: to raise Emma into someone who knows that loyalty isn't an obligation. It's a choice you renew every day. That love isn't built on words or vows, but on actions repeated in quiet moments. Breakfasts made, truths told, hands held. So when I hear her laugh, really laugh, unguarded and free, I don't think about what we lost. I think about what we kept. Peace. And in the quiet that follows, I finally understand. Healing doesn't announce itself. It just arrives one morning, in the sound of your child's laughter, and you realize, without even trying, that you've already forgiven everyone, including yourself.